We live in a world that's just, well, swimming in information, right?
Absolutely.
And every time tech takes another leap forward, you start wondering, okay, what about my personal privacy?
Mm-hmm.
It gets more pressing.
Yeah.
So how do we actually get ahead of that instead
Yeah.
of always reacting? And that's really where this idea of privacy by design comes in. It's meant to be proactive.
Yeah, a forward-looking approach.
Exactly. So today, we're going to dive into what that really means. We're using this really solid document from the Information Privacy Commissioner of Ontario as our guide to sort of unpack the core principles.
And what's fascinating, I think, is that privacy by design, or PBD as it's often called, it's moving beyond just, ticking the legal boxes.
Right.
It's being seen more and more as, well, frankly, a market imperative. It builds trust, and that trust is kind of fundamental for everything we do online now.
It really is. And it's not just rehashing old ideas, is it? It builds on things like the Fair Information Practices, the FIPS, but it aims higher. It's pushing for a stronger kind of global standard.
That's the goal, yeah. A higher
Yeah.
bar.
So our mission, let's say, for this deep dive is to get a really clear handle on these 7 foundational principles that make up PBD. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding why this framework matters so much today.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's jump right into the first one. Proactive, not reactive. Preventative, not remedial. What's the core shift in thinking here?
Well, the name almost says it all, doesn't it? The main idea is to anticipate privacy problems, to stop them before they happen, rather than scrambling to fix things afterwards.
Okay.
The document uses the phrase before the fact, not after, which I think really nails it. It's about building in that privacy-first thinking right from the very start of any design process.
So practically speaking, what does that look like? If an organization really takes that proactive stance, what changes?
It means, first off, a real commitment from the top. Like, leadership has to buy in and champion high privacy standards, maybe even standards that go beyond what the law strictly requires. And it means creating a culture where everyone feels responsible for privacy developers, marketers, everyone, not just the legal team.
Right. Shared responsibility.
Exactly. And crucially, it means having, actual methods in place. Processes to spot potential privacy pitfalls early on during design and then fixing them before the product or service ever sees the light of day.
Which I imagine saves a lot of headaches and maybe cost down the line.
Oh, absolutely. Preventing problems is almost always more efficient and less damaging to reputation than cleaning up a mess later.
That makes a lot of sense. Building it right the first time. Okay, let's move to principle number 2. Privacy as the default setting. Now, this sounds like it could really change things for us as users.
It's huge, yeah. This principle says your personal data should be protected automatically, straight out of the box, basically.
Oh, automatically.
Yes. The key phrase here is, if an individual does nothing, their privacy still remains intact. You shouldn't have to dig through menus or uncheck boxes to get basic privacy. Protection should be the default state.
Wow. Okay. So it flips the usual model where you might have to opt out of sharing data.
Precisely. It shifts the burden away from you, the individual, and puts the onus on the system designer to protect privacy from the get-go.
So how does that connect back to those fair information practices, the FIPS you mentioned earlier?
Well, it puts several key FIPS into practice right away. Think about purpose specification. Why are you collecting this data? With privacy as default, you need a really good reason for any collection. Then there's collection limitation. Only get what's truly necessary. A privacy default naturally pushes towards minimizing collection.
Right. Minimal collection.
And data minimization itself is baked in, defaulting to non-identifiable data if possible. And things like use limitation, only using data for the stated purpose. The default reinforces all of this. It makes these good practices the standard, not the exception.
So for you listening, the idea is less fiddling with settings, more inherent protection. That's actually quite reassuring.
It should be.
Okay, principle 3. Privacy embedded into design. This feels like it builds directly on the last 2. It's about how you make privacy the default.
Exactly. It's saying privacy isn't some feature you tack on at the end. It has to be woven into the very fabric, the architecture of the systems and the business practices right from day one.
Not bolted on, as the document says.
Precisely. Not bolted on as an add-on after the fact. The goal is for privacy to be a core part of the functionality, working alongside everything else, not getting in the way.
So it challenges that old idea that you have to sacrifice features or usability to get good privacy.
Absolutely. It's saying you can have both, but it requires a a structured approach, using established standards, doing proper privacy impact assessments, sometimes called PIAs, maybe even publishing them.
Okay.
The aim is to show demonstrably how you've minimized privacy risks through the design itself and done it in a way that's robust.
Got it. So it's integrated, not just added. Now, principle 4 is interesting. Full functionality positive sum, not zero sum. This sounds like it directly tackles that trade-off idea we just touched on.
It really does. This principle confronts head-on the common belief that you always have to trade privacy off against something else, security, convenience, features, whatever. That kind of zero-sum thinking, where more privacy means less of something else.
Right. The idea that you can't have your cake and eat it too, privacy-wise.
Exactly. PBD rejects that. It pushes for a win-win or positive sum approach. The goal is to find ways to achieve all the legitimate objectives without making those kinds of unnecessary sacrifices.
So like the classic privacy versus security debate, PBD says that's a false choice.
That's a perfect example. It argues that's a false dichotomy. We should be aiming for solutions that deliver both strong privacy and strong security, for instance.
So how do you actually do that? Find these win-win solutions?
Well, it takes conscious effort. You need to clearly identify all the interests involved, define what functions you actually need, figure out how you'll measure success, and then actively look for innovative solutions that satisfy multiple requirements at once. Don't just accept the easy trade-off.
Okay.
The document even calls achieving this the gold standard. It implies, a higher level of design thinking is needed.
That's a really positive framing that innovation can solve these apparent conflicts.
Okay.
Principle 5, end-to-end security full lifecycle protection. This sounds pretty crucial.
Oh, it's fundamental. This principle stresses that privacy needs strong security protecting it throughout the entire time data exists, from the second it's collected right through to when it's securely destroyed. Think cradle-to-grave protection.
Right.
Because let's be honest, without robust security, any promises about privacy are pretty much worthless. The document puts it starkly. Without strong security, there can be no privacy.
So security isn't just related to privacy, it's like the essential foundation.
Absolutely essential. You can't have one without the other. So this means taking responsibility for security across that whole life cycle, using recognized standards, ensuring confidentiality, making sure the data is accurate and available when needed, and using things like encryption, strong access controls, and importantly, secure deletion methods when the data is no longer needed.
Okay, so security underpins everything. Got it. Number 6 is visibility and transparency. Keep it open. This seems to be about building trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
This principle is about making sure everyone involved, especially you, the user, can be confident that things are operating the way they're supposed to according to the promises made.
Seeing how it works.
Seeing how it works, and ideally being able to verify it. The components, the policies, the procedures, they should be visible and transparent. It boils down to that old saying, trust but verify.
Right, makes sense.
Transparency is how you build accountability, and accountability builds trust.
And how does this principle connect back to those fair information practices?
It ties in really strongly. Think about accountability in FIPS, knowing who is responsible, making sure third parties offer the same protection. That requires transparency.
Okay.
And openness, which is literally about making policies and practices readily available, and also compliance, having ways for people to complain or check that the rules are actually being followed. Transparency enables all of that.
So it's about being clear, open, and provably doing what you claim with data.
Yep.
Okay, last one, principle 7. Respect for user privacy. Keep it user-centric. This sounds like it puts the individual right at the heart of it.
It absolutely does. This is about prioritizing the individual's interests, making sure they get strong privacy settings by default, like we discussed, but also giving them clear notice about what's happening with their data, and really importantly, providing user-friendly options so they can actually manage their own privacy.
Empowering the user.
Yes. The thinking is that empowering individuals is actually one of the best safeguards for privacy. It's not just about telling them things, it's about respecting their agency and their choices.
And the FIPS connection here
Yeah.
must be quite strong.
Very strong. Consent is huge. Getting real informed consent, especially for sensitive data and letting people easily withdraw it. Accuracy, keeping data correct. Access, letting people see their data, know how it's used, and fix mistakes. And compliance, again, through complaint mechanisms. But PBD here pushes beyond just the basic FIPS. It really emphasizes designing interfaces that are genuinely easy to understand and use human-centered design so people aren't tricked or confused into giving up privacy. It's about making privacy choices meaningful.
So it's not just checking boxes. It's about genuine respect for the person whose data it is. That brings us through all 7 principles. Quite a comprehensive framework.
It really is, and I think what's powerful is how they all work together. It's not just a list, it's a cohesive approach to embedding privacy deeply right from the start. It's that shift from reaction to proaction.
Yeah, moving away from just fixing breaches and towards building systems that are inherently more trustworthy because privacy was considered from day one.
Exactly. It offers a path to stronger privacy that goes way beyond just minimum legal requirements.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If these 7 principles were really widely adopted, truly put into practice everywhere, how might that change your daily experience with technology? What would a world actually feel like if privacy truly was the default setting? And maybe what role can we all play in pushing for that kind of user-centric, privacy-respecting design?
That's a great question to ponder. What does that future look like?